Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put this in between, and I'll tell you what we're gonna do in like a second or two. What is good, Sneaky? It's good to see you, bro. Thank goodness you're here. I actually have someone to fucking talk to in chat. Let me just adjust this. This chair be weird, bro. Alright, that should do. And let me just go ahead and fix... yeah, so if we go here... Alright, there we go. So, what I'm thinking we... Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's nothing. So, what I'm thinking we do today is we're gonna react to the most painful executions in history by J Done History. I actually have not checked this channel out before. I haven't watched any content from it, from this channel. So we're gonna see what this is about. I've watched similar execution type content, and it can get pretty brutal. So just a little heads up for that. But yeah, let's see what it's about. It's 15 minutes long, so we'll probably zoom through this.
The execution of William Wallace on August 23, 1305, was one of the most brutal and infamous deaths of the medieval period. Wallace, a Scottish knight and leader in the Wars of Scottish Independence, had risen to prominence through his resistance against English rule. His capture, trial, and execution were meant to serve as a grim warning to others who dared challenge King Edward I of England. Prior to his execution, Wallace had spent years fighting against English occupation in Scotland, and he was instrumental in several key battles. He was captured near Glasgow in August 1305 by Sir John de Menteith, a Scottish noble loyal to the English crown. Wallace was taken in chains to London, where he was paraded as a traitor, before being subjected to one of the most gruesome executions in history. Wallace's trial was held in Westminster Hall, where he was accused of treason, and although he denied the charge, stating that he...
Hold on. I need to just... Who is this William Wallace guy, bro? Is that the guy who, like... Isn't that the guy who, like, yells freedom or something? Yeah, is that this guy? Because obviously, like, Scotland at this time does not like England. So it would honestly make sense if he got the most brutal punishment imaginable. But I don't know what it is. And I honestly don't know much about William Wallace either. Like, I haven't watched the movie or anything. Where's the execution of Jesus Christ? That was kind of brutal. Well, I mean... Is it really that brutal? Like, we're talking about the most painful executions in history right here. Right here. The most painful executions in history. I don't know if Jesus has one of the most painful executions in history. But wait, is he on the list? Mary, Giles Corey... Nah, he's not here. No, he's not here. I don't think he could match the energy.
He could not be a traitor to King Edward I because he had never sworn allegiance to him in the first place. His words were ultimately ignored, and his fate had already been decided. He was condemned to die in the most humiliating and agonizing manner possible, being hanged, drawn, and quartered, a punishment reserved for those accused of high treason. On the day of his execution, Wallace was dragged through the streets of London tied to a horse, forced to endure the insults of the English crowds. His naked body was bound tightly, and he was pulled through the filth of the city for miles. This was a deliberate act of humiliation, meant to break his spirit and display him as a defeated enemy of the crown. By the time he reached Smithfield, the site of his execution, his body was severely bruised. The execution itself was designed to inflict maximum pain, as Wallace was first hanged from a wooden gallows, but not to the point of death. Instead, he was cut down while still alive, gasping for air, as he was then subjected to the next stage of the punishment. He was stripped and brutally castrated, which was a symbolic act meant...
What? Nah, so he got the Jesus treatment and castrated at the same time. So while he was hanging on a fucking piece of wood, he got castrated mid-execution. Who comes up with this? See, this is what I mean. When you don't have access to technology and social media like they had here back in the day, you get creative. And that includes punishments. They will think of everything.
and to strip him of his manhood and legacy, with his privates being burned in front of him.
Yo, they probably had like a fire or something right in front of his fucking eyes. Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, your testicles are right here, bro. Come get him. Come get him. Like, oh my god. Who thinks of this?
If this agony was not enough, Wallace was then disemboweled. His stomach was sliced open, and his intestines were slowly pulled from his body while he was still conscious. It is believed that many of his organs were also burned in front of him. Only when the executioners deemed he had suffered enough, he was finally beheaded, and his head was placed on a pike and displayed on London Bridge as a warning to any scouts who might consider rebellion. With that being said, the punishment did not end with his death, as his limbs were also cut from his torso and sent to different parts of England and Scotland. His arms and legs were displayed in Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth, as further reminders of what would happen to those who defied English rule. King Edward I wanted to ensure that Wallace's influence was completely erased from Scotland's resistance movement, but despite Edward's efforts, Wallace's execution had the opposite effect. Instead of breaking the will of the Scots, it fueled their desire for independence. His brutal death
W, bro. They were not scared of that shit. Imagine seeing your leader die like that, and you're just like, nah, we ain't taking that. We don't care, bro. This is why we hate you. This is why we hate you, bro. But I imagine everybody was acting like this. Like, say the Scottish captured some English soldier, they would probably do the same. Or some English leader, they would probably do the same.
Turn him into a martyr, inspiring later leaders such as Robert the Bruce to continue the fight against it.
Bro, like, these drawings are fucking uncanny. His whole head is here, and his eyes are here, and like...
English rule. Less than a decade after Wallace's execution, Scotland would achieve a significant victory against England at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, which ultimately led to Scottish independence. William Wallace's execution remains one of the most savage punishments in history, and his courage in the face of
Yeah, it's this guy, bro. Isn't he like fucking famous or something? Have you seen the movie Troy in the one scene where the main character drags his enemy across the whole town? No, I've not seen. Bro, I don't watch movies, unfortunately. He was dragged across the whole town, face down by a horse. Nah, so his face got fucked up? But like, I've seen like... I remember I saw like a similar video of this, where it was like... there's like... I think it was like in Persia or something. And they literally punished people by making them eat like a fuck ton of like milk and honey. Like they kept force feeding them milk and honey, and then they strapped them to a boat, sent them out to sea, and like bugs would come and like eat, like literally eat their flesh, and then the milk and honey would create diarrhea in their bodies, and they would shit like they would basically like shit all over the place, and like it was crazy. And then, like, they would repeat the process. So if the guy wasn't dead the first day, the boat would come back. They would do the same thing. They would, like, cover this dude in milk and honey, fill his stomach up with milk and honey. He would shit everywhere. Bugs would come. They would eat him. And then they would continue to do this until he was fucking dead and rotting, bro. It was, like, in Persia. Like, modern-day Iran, basically. So that's pretty crazy.
Bearable suffering cemented his status as an...
Like, this one, like, I hate to say it, but this one was not that bad. I'd say the craziest part about this was the castration mid-execution. That was pretty insane. But other than that, I don't know, man. I feel like I've watched, or I've seen and heard about worse punishments.
National hero in Scotland. Today, he is remembered not as a traitor, but as a symbol of resistance and patriotism. The execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, on February 8, 1587.
Another Scottish person? Oh my god! They're catching strays.
Was one of the most infamous beheadings in history, not only because of the political intrigue that led to her death, but also due to the gruesome and botched nature of the execution itself. Mary had once been a queen of both Scotland and France, but by the time of her execution, she had spent nearly...
How are you a queen of Scotland and France? Like, bro, times back then? Like, bro, imagine being a king of two of the most random places on earth. Like, I could be the king of Monaco and Brazil. Like, yeah, I'm the king of both, so I make decisions in both of those countries. But oh, my brother, like my step brother-in-law, he's the king of Namibia and China. And so I'm gonna fight him, and I'm gonna take his territories, and yeah, and we're gonna castrate him mid-execution, because I'm gonna capture this brother-in-law of mine, and we're gonna hang him up, and we're gonna castrate him, and we're gonna burn his testicles in front of him. That's a must.
2 decades as a prisoner in England, caught in a web of political and religious conflict that ultimately led to her beheading. Mary's troubles began long before her execution, as she was the Catholic Queen of Scotland, but she faced resistance from Protestant nobles, and was forced to resign from being queen in 1567 in favor of her infant son, James VI. After an unsuccessful attempt to regain power, she fled to England in 1568, seeking the protection of her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. However, Elizabeth saw her not as a guest, but as a threat. As the great-granddaughter of Henry VII, Mary had a strong claim to the English throne, and many Catholics considered her the legitimate ruler of England. Elizabeth's Protestant advisors feared that Mary's presence could recite rebellion, and instead of offering her asylum, Elizabeth had her imprisoned. For 19 years, Mary was kept under house arrest in various castles and manors across England, all the while remaining a focal point for Catholic plots against Elizabeth. The most significant of these was the Babington Plot of 1586, a plan to assassinate Elizabeth and place Mary on the throne. Letters between Mary and the conspirators were intercepted, providing what Elizabeth's advisors saw as undeniable evidence of treason. Despite Mary's insistence that she had no involvement in the plot, she was put on trial and sentenced to death. On the morning of February 8, 1587, Mary was led to the Great Hall of Fotheringhay Castle, and as she approached the execution block, she removed her outer garments to reveal a crimson petticoat, the color of Catholic martyrdom, making a final statement of her faith. Her ladies-in-waiting wept as they helped her prepare for death, but Mary remained composed, even joking with the executioner about the cold. Before the execution, Mary was offered a Protestant prayer, which she refused, instead choosing to pray in Latin. She forgave her executioner and reaffirmed her Catholic faith. She then knelt and placed her head on the block, positioning herself with care. The executioner, Richard Bull, was an experienced headsman, but what followed was one of the most gruesome beheadings in English history. As Bull swung the axe for the first time, he missed his mark, striking the back of Mary's head instead of her neck. The blade failed to
Bro, like... So you forgive your executioner, and your executioner completely fucks up. That is the most sad shit ever. Like, imagine I'm about to be beheaded, right? So I go up on please speak, bro. I go up on stage, and I decide, you know what? I'm feeling merciful today. I want to go to heaven, so I'm gonna forgive my executioner. I bend down. I go down on my knees. I bend over, all right, and my neck is right here, and my executioner completely fucks up. And so I'm just in pain, fucking yelling and screaming because he missed me and just cut somewhere else. Bro, like, oh, what a... Like, that's just... At that point, it's not even gruesome, it's just awkward. It's just purely awkward.
Sever her head, causing a deep gash and sending a spray of blood across the scaffold. Mary let out a muffled groan, but did not scream.
What? Nah, people back then were built different, bro. A muffled groan. Like, that fucking hurt. Shit. God damn it. Fucking executioner. What? I mean, it depends by how much he missed, but I feel like...
And the executioner raised his axe again and struck a second blow, but still, it did not fully sever.
Yeah, fire this guy. Nah, what is he doing? Nah, you mess up the first time, that's bad. Like, that is insane. But if you mess up the second time, you are nonchalant a queen. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And it's like, oh my goodness. No, I feel really bad for her. She's out here forgiving the executioner, being nonchalant, just creating like a chill environment, and this dude is just fucking up. He's fucking everything up. Oh my god, please just let it be swift and fucking painless.
For her head, the audience, which included nobles and officials...
Yeah, you gotta swap executioners. You gotta swap them, because this guy's obviously not doing a good job.
...looked on in horror as Mary's body twitched and trembled. It took a third, final blow to completely detach her head from her body. With that being said, the horror did not end there. As the executioner lifted Mary's head to display...
I know... Oh my god. Have you? Okay, so you know during the French Revolution, you know when they were cutting everybody's heads off with like guillotines and stuff. Usually, like because like there's still blood in the head, so you're conscious for a little bit before you die. That's probably what happened here. That's probably what he's about to say. He's about to say she was still conscious. Fuck no, bro. I swear to God, if I was, what is it, Queen of Scots? If I was Mary, oh my God. Nah, cause like, oh my God, no. Both of them are losing so much aura. Both Mary and the Executioner are losing so much aura. It is insane.
To the crowd, he found himself holding only her wig, with her head slipping from his grasp and falling to the floor, revealing she had been wearing a wig to conceal her thinning hair. To make matters worse, Mary's small dog had been hidden beneath her skirts throughout the execution and emerged, whimpering and refusing to leave its mistress's lifeless body. Mary's death was meant to eliminate.
What? What? Run that shit back.
Worse, Mary's small dog had been hidden beneath her skirts throughout the execution and emerged, whimpering and refusing to leave its mistress's lifeless body.
This shit just gets fucking... What? I'm kind of surprised. I didn't even know they had pets back then. Like, at least not like that. Like, they had dogs like that. Really? This looks photoshopped. This does not look real. But that aside, what? Why would you do that? How would you do that? Maybe just the royalties? Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, sure. If it's expensive to get a pet, but how, like, Sneaky, you just heard what they said, right? You just heard that shit. She literally hid her pet. Like, why? Why? What is your goal? You're dying. You might as well leave your pet at home. Like, it's not better. Bro, are they gonna behead the dog? I don't think they're gonna behead the dog, but like, that would be quite something. Because like, I don't think the dog is safe there. With an executioner and everything.
Mary's death was...
The executioner might want to regain his aura. Because he fucked up so many times with, like, Mary. He might try to, like, regain the aura by, like, trying again. Maybe she wanted to reincarnate as a dog or something. Yo, oh my God, bro. I mean, the thing is, like, I would say, like, that you're bullshitting. But I don't even think it's bullshit. People back then believed everything, bro. Like, oh yeah, putting a dog on my skirt while I'm being fucking beheaded is gonna make me reincarnate as a fucking pet. Like, yeah, no, it's possible.
Meant to eliminate a Catholic threat to Elizabeth's rule, but it had significant political repercussions. While many in England saw her as a traitor, her execution angered Catholic Europe. King Philip II of Spain used it as one of his justifications for launching the Spanish Armada against England the following year. Mary's son, James VI of Scotland, did not
This might be the most goofy shit I've ever seen in my life. No, like, this fit right here is not even, like, it's not even absurd. It is, like, absolutely absurdly diabolical. If this is, like, someone made this, like, I swear to God, they had, like, a competition, like, who can make the weirdest fits ever, and, like, someone made this shit. I don't know, was this aura back then? Like, do you think if edits existed back, like, during this time, do you think they would make edits out of this guy?
openly retaliate, but never forgave Elizabeth for his mother's death. Ironically, despite Elizabeth's efforts to eliminate a Catholic heir, James would eventually succeed her as King of England after her death in 1603, uniting the crowns of Scotland and England. Mary, Queen of Scots, remains one of the most tragic figures in history, but fortunately, her execution did not erase her legacy, and rather cemented her status as a martyr. Today, she is remembered as a queen who suffered greatly due to the religious and political conflicts of her time. The execution of Giles Corey on September 19, 1692 was one of the most brutal and unique deaths during the Salem witch trial.
He was weighed to death? They just place weights on him?
Unlike those who were hanged on Gallows Hill, Corey suffered a slow and agonizing death by pressing, an uncommon method of execution in which heavy stones were placed upon the victim's body until they were ultimately crushed. Giles Corey was a prosperous farmer in Salem Village, Massachusetts, and before the witch trials, he had been accused of beating a farmhand to death, though he avoided severe punishment. By 1692, he was over 80 years old and married to Martha Corey. His wife was an outspoken woman who was skeptical of the growing accusations of witchcraft in Salem. When she openly ridiculed the trials, she quickly became a target of suspicion. In March 1692, she was accused of witchcraft and arrested, and Giles, initially unsure of what to believe, later defended her, but by then, he himself had come under suspicion. In April 1692, Giles Corey was accused of witchcraft by several individuals. They claimed he was a wizard who had used supernatural powers to harm others, and like many others, Corey was brought before the court in Salem, where he witnessed firsthand the chaotic and unjust nature of the trials. Those who pleaded guilty to witchcraft were often spared execution, while those who maintained their innocence were hanged. Corey...
I like how, the concept of justice and court existed back then, but not the fact that witches didn't exist. They believed in witchcraft and, wizards, and yet they were sophisticated enough to have, a court system.
Having seen how the court operated, made a shocking decision.
But I feel a decision, the court makes, basically every decision.
He refused to plead guilty or innocent. At the time, English law required that a person accused of a capital crime must enter a plea before they could be tried. If they refused, the court could not legally proceed with the case. However, there was a loophole. Those who refused to plead could be subjected to a form of torture in which the accused was pressed with heavy stones until they either entered a plea or died. Corey knew that if he entered a plea and was found guilty, his estate would be confiscated by the court, leaving his children with nothing. By refusing to plead, he ensured that his property would pass to his heirs rather than being seized by the authorities. On September 17, 1692...
Damn, so he really did this shit for his kids.
Corey was taken to a field near Salem Jail and placed under a board. Large stones were then placed on the top of the board, beginning the process of pressing. Sheriff George Corwin and other officials stood over him, urging him to enter a plea, but Corey remained silent. As the weight increased, he repeatedly cried out, "More weight," a response that would become legendary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, nah, I'm sorry, Giles Corey. Nah, I didn't know he was like that. Nah, he a little freaky, bruh. Why does he want more pain? Because, this isn't a more pain, more gain situation. This is just more pain, you'll die situation. So there's no reason for him to say this shit. Unless he genuinely just wants to die, bro.
2 days, the stones continued to be added, crushing his
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely, 100%.
chest and making it nearly impossible for him to breathe. Witnesses claimed that his tongue protruded from his mouth due to the pressure, and Sheriff Corwin cruelly used the tip of his cane to push it back in. Despite the immense agony for him to breathe, witnesses claimed it continued to be added, crushing his chest and making it nearly impossible for him to breathe. Witnesses claimed that his tongue protruded from his mouth due to the pressure, and Sheriff Corwin cruelly used the tip of his cane to push it back in.
Oh my goodness, the Middle Ages, bro. The Middle fucking Ages, bro. Yo, this is public. You could just go there. Honestly, that was probably their form of entertainment. If you're watching if anybody's watching this stream, this might be your current entertainment. Back then, the most entertaining thing you could see was you could pull up to some kind of town square, and there would be some dude getting absolutely fucked over by a bunch of heavy stones, and you'd be like, "Oh, look at that! Oh, his head is busting up. Oh, I can see his brain. Oh, look at that! Oh, the blood is flowing. Oh my goodness. Oh, the whole pavement is red. What? Come on, bro. That is insane." And the crazy thing is, I think there's people out there today that would want to bring this shit back.
Despite the immense agony, Corey never broke.
What if it's serious question. If they, would we want to legalize watching pedophile executions? Let's say you kept children and people who are sensitive. It's optional to come watch. Would you want to see, and children are allowed to watch, would you want to see this shit happened to like a pedophile or like some other serious criminal, bro. Because I feel like a lot of people, like I think most people would say no, but I don't know, man. A lot of people would probably say yes.
And on the third day, September 19th, 1692, Giles Corey succumbed to his injuries. His last recorded words were once again, "more weight," and his death was the only execution by pressing during the Salem witch trials and remains one of the most infamous instances of judicial torture in American history. Corey's death had a profound impact on the Salem witch trials, as his refusal to plead exposed the absurdity and cruelty of the proceedings, contributing to growing doubts about the legitimacy of the trials. His death, along with that of his wife Martha, who was hanged 3 days later, added to the public outcry that eventually led to the trials being halted. By early 1693, the hysteria had begun to fade. The remaining accused were released. In the years that followed, the Salem witch trials were widely condemned, and in 1711, the Massachusetts government posthumously exonerated many of the accused and provided some compensation to their families. However, the damage had already been done. Giles Corey's name continued to be a symbol of resistance, being viewed as a man who stood against injustice. The execution of Robert Francois Damien...
What am I looking at? Not real shit. What am I looking at? Is this a fucking mattress?
And on March 28, 1757, in Paris, was one of the most gruesome...
It's in France. Oh, it's in France. Oh, no. Oh, it's in France. Sneaky, this execution is in France. Oh, whoever this guy is, Robert Damiens. Oh, Robert, you are so fucking cooked. The French are like the king of this shit. No, the French? Oh yeah, no, they're gonna fuck you up. Nah, imagine just pulling up to your local hanging station and seeing your old teacher or something being yeah, yo, bro. I mean, that's what I'm saying. And like, or like not even hanged, like they get some other punishment. They get like fucking like Giles Corey, they got fucking flattened, bro. Like, imagine our old French teacher. You know who I'm talking about. Imagine if she got flattened, bro. I probably shouldn't say that shit, but, like, think about it. Think about it. That would be crazy. Because she committed some... Let's just say she committed a crime. That would be insane, right?
Infamous executions in French history. Damiens...
It's one of the most infamous executions in French history. Oh, then you're absolutely screwed. Oh my goodness, a normal execution in France would be worse than most other executions in most other countries. But this is one of the most famous ones. Oh shit.
A former servant with a troubled past had attempted to kill the king, which was one of the most gravest crimes anyone could commit. The punishment for such an offense was nothing short of horrific, designed not only to end his life, but to be an act of divine retribution. Before his execution, Damiens had lived a pretty unstable life. He had been employed in various positions, including as a domestic servant for judges and other officials, which gave him insight into the workings of the French legal system. However, he was frequently dismissed from his post due to his erratic behavior. By the mid-18th century, France was in turmoil, plagued by financial difficulties and political unrest. Many blamed King Louis XV for the country's struggles, seeing him as a weak and ineffective ruler. Damiens, who had become increasingly obsessed with the perceived moral and political failures of the monarchy, decided to take matters into his own hands. On January 5th, 1757, Damiens managed to enter the Palace of Versailles, where he attempted to assassinate King Louis XV. As the king was leaving his quarters, Damiens lunged forward and stabbed him in the side with a small knife. The wound, while painful, was not fatal, as it was shallow and barely penetrated the king's flesh. Guards immediately seized Damiens, and he was taken into custody. Despite the minor nature of the injury, the attack was treated as a direct assault on the monarchy itself. Under interrogation, Damiens claimed he had acted alone, though authorities feared...
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this shit? Fucking phone cover?
A larger conspiracy. He was
Yo, that shit's fire, bro. I'm finna get a Robert Damiens phone cover.
tortured to extract information, but no broader plot was uncovered. Nevertheless,
What the fuck is this?
he was sentenced to die in the most brutal manner possible. On the day of his execution, Damiens was led to the Place de Grève, the central execution site in Paris. He was first subjected to the question, a form of judicial torture meant to extract confessions. His body was stretched, his limbs wrenched, and molten sulfur was poured onto his wounds.
They poured some fucking sulfur.
This, however, was only the beginning of his...
Yup! It's always... yo, it's always just the beginning. The French are like, oh, you thought we were done. Oh, that's a shame. Nah, because we got much more for your ass. Try to fucking stab the king, and you think this shit is over? No,
Suffering. Once he was brought to the scaffold, he was stripped naked and shackled.
I think I actually walked past an old hanging place when I was in Paris. You know, like, Paris, or like France, I was about to say still use the guillotine. They don't use the guillotine anymore. But it was the last person who got executed by guillotine in France. It was pretty recent. Let me look this shit up, because this is actually insane. France guillotine. 1977. Nah, what the hell? The last execution by guillotine in France, and therefore the last in the Western world, occurred on September 10th, 1977, in Marseille. The condemned man was Hamida Janoubi, a Tunisian immigrant convicted of torturing and murdering a young woman. This execution took place before. They used the guillotine in 1977, bro. They had to make sure that, like, they stuck to tradition and shit. Is there pictures? Are there pictures of it? Is this him? What the fuck is this haircut? What? The crazy thing is, the last Sui was executed by law in 1970. Exactly. That's like, bro. That's like, how much is that? 70 years? Like 60 years. A 60-year difference. 60 years! Imagine a 60-year-old person, bro. The difference is unreal. Wait, they said 19... Oh, that's him? Nah, bro. Yeah, you can see this picture is recent. This crazy is my parents were born 1978. 1 year. That's only 1 year after. Like, this is pretty modern. Anyway.
The executioners began by attempting to tear his flesh apart with red-hot pincers, focusing on...
Whoa! Oh my god, nah, I need to start over. What did they do to this man?
Drenched in molten sulfur was poured on chins. Was first subjected to the question, a form of judicial torture meant to extract confessions. His body was stretched, his limbs wrenched, and molten sulfur was poured onto his wounds. This, however, was only the beginning of his suffering. Once he was brought to the scaffold, he was stripped naked and shackled. The executioners began by attempting to tear his flesh apart with red-hot pincers, focusing on his arms, legs, and chest. This was...
They probably had a lot of fun doing this. I know these guards had a lot of fun doing this shit. Because what else exciting are they gonna do in their lives, bro? You might as well just tear his flesh apart. Like, low-key. Nah, like, low-key, if I lived in these horrible times, I would probably be a guard. Shit, I'm gonna die to some disease anyway. I might as well, you know, pick up a fucking rifle and pincers and, like, fucking skin people to death. I'm being real, bro. I'm being 100% real.
Meant to prolong his agony and weaken his body before the final stage of the execution. Next, his right hand, the one that held the knife, was burned with molten lead, sulfur.
Oh, shit. Shit. So the hand is just completely, like... It's completely severed by, like, burning. It just melts and, like...
Boiling oil and burning wax, further adding to his torment. With that being said, the most horrifying part of his execution was yet to come. His arms and legs were tied to 4 powerful horses, which were meant to pull his body apart. However, his joints were too strong, and the horses struggled to separate his limbs. After multiple failed attempts, the executioners were forced to intervene manually, using knives to sever the joints in order to make the dismemberment possible. Eventually, after prolonged suffering...
make children, execute someone, and eating bread. The 3 best things you can do at that time. No, but, like, that's... No, but, like, seriously, bro. Yeah. No, like, genuinely. Think about it. In this time, all you did... You had, like... There was 3 positions, right? You could be one of 3 things. Either you were a farmer... which 98% of the population were. Like, you were a farmer during this time, and then maybe if you were a little bit special, you could be like either very rich or some kind of like merchant or priest. That's like 2% of the population. And as a farmer, what are you gonna do, bro? You grow food, bro. And you grow food and you have some kind of family and you feed your family. Yeah, like you fucked your wife and you ate bread and you ate potatoes and like that's what you did, bro. And you had like some cows you could take care of. And that's like, when you think about it like that, it sounds like a pretty good life, but in reality, bro, like, there was like a lot of disease and stuff. Not to mention that the fucking country they were living in most of the time, just like, the governments were tweaking also during this time. That's very important to mention. Governments be doing anything. They're like, oh, we're gonna establish this new government and we're gonna kill these types of people and we're gonna do it in this way. Like, the governments were also bored, bro. Oh, and we're gonna go to war with these people, and then you become a soldier and shit. So yeah, like, there's not a whole lot of career choices.
His body was torn apart, and the remains were burned in a massive fire. The execution took hours to complete, and the crowd that had gathered to watch was horrified. Even by the standards of the time, the brutality of the punishment shocked witnesses, some of whom reportedly fainted or turned away in disgust. The aftermath...
Like, they don't even like what they're seeing. See, that's so weird. Like, at least if you enjoyed watching this, I could understand it. But you obviously don't. You obviously don't like this shit. You're fucking disgusted by it, and yet you're doing it.
Of Damien's execution was significant in several ways. First, it
Okay, Sneaky, be honest. If you watch this in real life, would you faint? Would you faint? And be 100% honest.
From the absolute power of the French monarchy, sending a clear message that any act of treason against the king would be met with the harshest possible punishment. However, it also...
Well, yeah, that's the thing about Robert Damiens. He stabbed the king. He stabbed the king of France, bro. The most powerful person in France. Like, I'm not really surprised he got this kind of punishment, to be honest. In fact, and this is pretty controversial, I probably would vomit and then faint and slip in my own vomit. I feel like if I saw this, that's the thing, like, I really don't think, I think it's different for everyone, but, like, I don't think you would throw up from seeing this. Like, if I'm gonna be 100% honest, let's say that this was normalized during this time and we were there watching it, I don't think we would vomit. I just think we would be a little disturbed. I think we would be disturbed because, the limbs are being pulled apart, right? And he's screaming and shit. But, like, I don't think it would be that bad. But what's bad about it is the fact that this guy had to go through that shit. But honestly, like, I'm gonna be completely honest. I feel like this is pretty reasonable. He stabbed the king, all right? And I get that, like, oh, the king shouldn't be able to be like that glazed. Well, look, bro, it's France, it's during the monarchy ages, this is like before the French Revolution. Dude was like the most protected person ever. I think it makes sense that he would get this punishment, to be honest. I thought he would almost get a worse punishment, actually.
Also fueled growing resentment toward the monarchy and the legal system. Many saw the execution as excessive and barbaric, and it contributed to the growing calls for reform that would eventually culminate in the French Revolution. The legal system that had condemned Damiens would, in just a few decades, be swept away as the monarchy itself fell to the guillotine. Today, the execution of Damiens is remembered as one of the most horrific examples of pre-revolutionary France. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you learned...
Alright, subscribe to Jadon History, everybody. I think I'm gonna watch one more, probably. Unless anybody has any better suggestions. Hold on, am I live? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Oh wait, oh no, I am. Okay, never mind. Yeah, see, this one. The worst punishment in human history, bro.
Let's start with the bad and slowly...
This guy, this video obviously has 13 million views. Everybody's seen this shit. Nah, let me show you this shit. Okay, so they got a bunch of horrible stuff. Crushed by elephant. Impalement. Look at this shit! Look at this shit! This is gonna get me banned, probably. I might get banned for this. I might definitely get banned for this. But look at this shit. And then there's where they place rats on bodies. This one. I want you to watch this one. If this shit happened to me right here, this one, Scaphism, I would actually cry. Watch this shit.
Out. Number 2, Scaphism. This was a form of punishment that was used by the ancient Persian Empire on anyone that would be convicted of murder. First, the criminal would be placed inside of a boat on their backs and tied down. The boat had 4 holes cut out so that the person's arms and legs would be outside of the boat and in the water. They were then force-fed large quantities of honey and milk until their stomachs were visibly full. They would
So that's the first step. They force feed them. Next.
then proceed to lather their entire body with the milk and honey as
Yep.
well. After all
So you're already feeling very sick because they just force fed you.
these steps were completed, he was then pushed out to the middle of the lake where he was completely exposed to the heat of the sun.
I forgot about the heat of the sun. Yeah, so you're being fucking burned. So imagine you're completely fucking disgusted. You're like, you already feel like vomiting. Your stomach is visibly large. You're tied to a boat. The sun is fucking you up. It's pretty bad. But no. Oh, you have not seen anything yet.
But the sun would soon become the least of his worries. You see,
Yep.
the reason they fed him milk and honey was not because it was a great last meal, but because this combination causes a person to get extreme diarrhea.
That is fucking disgusting. When I saw this shit, and it's not over, by the way. Just to get that out of the way, it's not over. More will come, but like, I'm just saying. So you're lying. You're on the boat. The sun is fucking excruciating. You're getting burns all over your body. You're fucking full of shit, and now you're also fucking pooping out a bunch of fucking diarrhea, bro. So you're getting even more messy.
Which mixed with the sweet honey attracts rodents,
Yep, and I wonder what the rodents and bugs will do to you.
bugs, wasps, bees, flies, and whatever other animals live near the lake. After being tormented by the animals throughout the entire night, you would think that the daytime maybe gets a little better. No, because as soon as the sun rises the following day, the person inside of the boat gets another gigantic meal.
You see this shit? They do this round after round after round. Until, I don't know, I mean, I'm guessing they wait until he fucking actually rots to the fucking core.
Of milk and honey and an additional lathering. This would be done on a daily basis to prolong the punishment for as long as possible. It was also well documented that the rodents would continuously attempt to burrow inside of the person through their back door.
Like, see, listen, good enough, that's his name. You did not have to say that shit. Like, I'm watching this shit, I am already completely repulsed, and you just say that. Nah, you just put that in front of my face. So like, imagine that shit. And isn't it also that, like, rodents can literally rip up your skin and go into your stomach or something?
They were probably trying to get a head start on their next meal. A writer named John Sonaris wrote in great detail about one of these incidents. He would go on to say that it was one of the most horrid and cruel forms of punishment since it was terribly long and seemed to have no end in sight.
And that's another thing. It's so long. It goes on for so long. One round of this would have me fucking itching in my own body. But no, it goes on. It goes on, bro. Day after day after day, or not day after day after day, but like hour after hour. And trust me, an hour is underrated. An hour, like, if you had no stimulation, you had to sit in a room for an hour, or in this case, be on a boat for an hour, especially when you're suffering, and you're having the sun on you and like all this bullshit, it's gonna feel like a few days. An hour is gonna feel like a few days, bro.
He wrote about a man who survived for an entire 17...
What did he say? No, what is this? What does this say right here? 17 days? You're telling me someone had to endure this for 17 days? What are we doing, bro? There's no way. 17 days? Are you actually serious? 17 days! Oh my goodness, bro. I hope that guy R-worded a child or something, like... Oh my god, bro. Because they did say that this punishment was for, like, murderers and stuff, so... There's that, but... Bro, like, that's the thing, like... Who knows if the monarchy starts tweaking out? Imagine if you live in a country where, like, the monarchy tweaks out and they do this shit to you, bro. This constant shit, this constant punishment.
Days
For,
before
like, something stupid, too.
he finally died from his wounds. Apparently, the man spent his last few days with his entire face completely covered with wasps, and his flesh rotting away, filled with
That
swarms
is
of parasites
fucking
and worms, all while being
disgusting.
covered in his own filth.
That is
Number one.
fucking disgusting. And then these other ones are pretty bad as well. But like low key, like bro, like nah, this shit is just actually so diabolical. Like this and impalement are probably the worst two things that you could ever do to me, bro. Crushed by elephant is pretty bad, mostly because like sometimes they would stomp on like certain limbs and only the limbs would get crushed. Whereas like, oh, if you stomp on the head, then it would be over, right? Oh, right. And then there's, oh my god. Oh my god. I forgot about this one. Now we have to see this one. No, we actually have to see, no, nah, check this shit out.
Number 8. Keel hauling. This brutal punishment was carried out at sea on sailors who would steal or be violent towards others and would usually result in death. Keel hauling would start with a sailor having his arms tied with a rope, then looped around the entire circumference of the ship before being tied off to his feet. The sailor would then be thrown overboard while the group of men on board pulled on the rope to slowly drag him around the outside of the ship, including over the keel, which is how this punishment gets its name. But a lot of the times, the sailor wouldn't even have to worry about it, since they were dead before they ever reached it. Kinda just depends on how hard the guys on the rope feel like working that day. Not only would the sailors be drowning and getting their backs and necks broken on the keel, they were also getting sliced apart like a cheese grater by all the sharp barnacles on the outside of the ship. But if by some miracle a sailor actually happens to make it all the way around the ship without dying, one of three things will happen. 1. He would be sent for round 2, and for sure be dead by then. 2. Be freed and allowed back on the ship.
Yo, bruh, nah. Sneaky, imagine if you and we were on a pirate ship together, and you start being real mean towards me, and I sent you through this keel hauling process, and you miraculously survive. You come out looking like this, and I'm just like, all right, bro. Nah, we're good now, bro. We're good. You made it, bro. You survived. We're homies now. Could you imagine that shit? And we're just chilling after that? We're not gonna address the elephant in the room?
Where he would then slowly die to infections.
Right. Right. So then this would probably happen, but you know, we would still be cool with each other, right? Like, you wouldn't mind if I keel haul you, right? Like, we're still friends after that, right?
Or 3. Live the rest of his life single and being made fun of, since he was now fully covered in scars from head to toe. Number...
Okay, that is definitely the best outcome. Are you fucking kidding me? That is by far the best outcome.
7. Crushed by elephant.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, this is the real punishments right here, bro. This is the real punishments.